Usually our intros are pretty upbeat and jolly, but not today. When we come on to talk, this was not our plan. We got some bad news from iRacing, but first I'm DJ Flook,
I'm Eric Richardson.
and we're both pretty upset right now. For
Yeah, it's
those,
easy to say.
yeah, for those who did not get the memo this morning, iRacing announced that their licensing agreement with the IndyCar Series expires on January 1st, 2023, which we knew. You know, there was going to be another IndyCar game from a company called Motorsport Games. They make NASCAR Heat and some other games that, to be completely honest, I have not been too terribly impressed with in the past. And iRacing dropped we'll say they dropped a little nugget this morning that they won't be able to, in their official Class B, Class C series, they can't run at tracks that the IndyCar Series currently runs at. And apparently, we're still waiting for official confirmation, but it sounds like we won't be able to broadcast IndyCar Series races on the iRacing platform because it will be a violation of the terms of the agreement with Motorsports Games.
Yeah, it's a predicament since we've been looking forward to running Indy
we
cars in
we
our
literally
opening
just
season.
we literally just announced our league. I mean, we knew this was going to come, and they're still working on some kind of agreement, but maybe this was a strategic move by iRacing to get people upset at the IndyCar Series. And you know what? I'm upset. I'm pretty upset about it.
Yeah, IndyCar already has their marketing issues, and now you just ticked off a pretty wide swath of your fan base.
Like, the statement that IndyCar released today was such a crock. I mean, they contacted, or let me give credit to kickthetires.net, contacted Penske Entertainment, which is IndyCar's parent company, Roger Penske, and received a statement from Dave First, the vice president of communications at IndyCar. That name sounds familiar. Why do I know that? Is that... Yeah, Dave First was in Indianapolis, their ABC affiliate Channel 6. He was like their sports guy for years, and he left the station in 2020 to go work for IndyCar. Anyway, he released a statement that iRacing will continue to provide a valuable platform for the gaming community to experience IndyCar. While there will be changes to our presence in the near future, our current car will still be featured on iRacing across current tracks, including Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This was important to us as we worked through our strategy to ensure fans would continue to access our racing across their favorite mediums. We also remain confident our partnership with Motorsports Games will produce an engaging, realistic, and enjoyable title feature for the NTT IndyCar Series. Ultimately, 2023, which rumor is no, they won't, will produce the first IndyCar-centric video game in nearly 2 decades while maintaining a presence for the sport in iRacing and beyond.
Still not going to be as good as the Indy 500 MS-DOS game.
That might have been the last good one.
It was classic.
So what does this mean? So one, all the official IndyCar tracks are off the official schedule. So you're going to be running IndyCar Series at tracks that either they've never visited before or haven't in a long time. And
At
definitely
least
not
it's
with this
only,
car.
3 ovals at this
Yeah,
point.
right. But on the schedule, but you look at Laguna Seca, you got Long Beach, you've got Iowa, you've got Gateway,
2 at
and
Indianapolis,
2 at Indianapolis. You've got Mid Ohio,
Iowa.
Road America, Texas, I mean, I don't know how many people honestly run in IndyCar race at Texas Motor Speedway voluntarily.
I'm glad IndyCar can't run on Texas on iRacing now. I did
Yeah, I
that
mean,
race last season. It was awful.
oh, it's a doozy.
It is not good.
But it's like you running an official IndyCar series. You know, every season you look forward to that race in Indianapolis, and now that's not going to happen because they can't as of right now. Maybe they get lucky and they ink something before the end of the year or shortly into 2023. But what really sucks is this broadcast ban on IndyCar, which means our Wednesday night dash season that's supposed to kick off January 11th is at risk of being canceled.
I wouldn't say canceled just yet. Maybe postponed to later in the year.
At the very least, best case scenario, postponed. Worst case scenario, canceled. We're still we talked before we hit record tonight about what we're gonna do, and we'll probably pull in NASCAR next gen maybe, but we got to do that quick. I don't know. I'm really upset about this. It's just motorsport games. I own the NASCAR Heat games. They're not good. They are not realistic. Like they're everything that iRacing is not, and that's not a good thing.
iRacing so far has been pretty solid. They have their hiccups here and there, but
sure.
For the most part, for a video game, essentially, it's pretty darn good.
And physics wise, you're not going to find anything more accurate. I mean, so far, Motorsport Games has released a couple of partial screenshots of a car, and that is it. Nothing else, and that was back in May of last year. And
did we mention that they went bankrupt already?
Yeah. I think that somebody. I mean, they're bleeding money. Apparently, like they've only been a company officially since 2018 because I think they absorbed something, but they're not doing great financially. They lost apparently reportedly $60 million over the last 2 years for a company that it's not EA Sports. I just, this is frustrating. I mean, it's just if I could still run run our league in January, fine. I mean, I'd be okay with that. But this stinks. Like we're scrambling here. On a side note, we announced too that our announcer Kendall Kerr had to step down. Just time commitment. His kids are getting older and a lot of activities. He runs his own league with Highline on Thursday night. It was just too much for him to squeeze the work in for our league, and we understand, like you've got a full schedule and your kids obviously come first.
Yeah, life happens and family happens.
Absolutely. Like your family comes first, and we thank Kendall. Like without a doubt, he has done a lot for our growth in such a short time, and brought a lot to the table that our new announcer, which we should have locked in the next couple of days, has big shoes to fill. Very big shoes to fill.
Yeah, Kendall did such an awesome job. I was like going back and listening just to hear his input and advice and what he was seeing calling the race.
So Kendall, thank you. I mean, he's staying involved. He's going to be involved in our competition committee. And
maybe call some of our special races that we do.
Yeah, there won't be IndyCar races, but I'm only laughing on the outside.
We'll pull the Formula One 500-mile race at the capital of Indiana. Oh, here we go. Let's bring back the Formula One U.S. Grand Prix at Indy on the new track.
Only if everybody boycotts it before in the formation lap. I was thinking last night, and I don't remember if I texted you this or not, but I'm just like, what would be kind of cool? Maybe we go buy the Lotus 49 run an IndyCar series on, I'm sorry, a open-wheeled Indianapolis style race series on those old Lotus 49 cars from the 60s.
Hey, I talked about doing that too.
I think
That'd
it'd
be
be
a lot of
I
fun.
I was watching a guy drive that at Indianapolis. Those cars get up to about 200 miles an hour and they accelerate pretty quickly. Like they max out at about 200 and you can see right before you get to the end of the straightaway, they're kind of pushing it where you're like before you have to come off the come off the throttle and brake into the corner. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words today.
Yeah, I think postponing IndyCar season until maybe season 2, 3, or 4.
If we're lucky.
We'll see what can get done. We'll look at maybe substituting in
But
the trucks again, or maybe we'll get creative and do something different.
IndyCar, this is on you. This is not on iRacing. iRacing is doing their part to try to keep it. This is on IndyCar. I'm going to say it right now. That Motorsports Games IndyCar game will never see the light of day. The final version will never hit stores or, PlayStation, Steam, wherever you sell it. It's not
If
going to
that
make
thing
it's
sees the
not,
light of day,
it will never see the light of day.
and almost guarantee it won't even be better than NASCAR 98.
It's if it does see the light of day, it probably shouldn't see the light of day. I'm going to say that right now. If it's anything like those last couple of NASCAR Heat games, just go to bankruptcy court. Motorsport Games, just file for bankruptcy. Just get out of here, please. Like
On IndyCar, this game better just blow the socks off of everything that's been out there. Otherwise, you made a big mistake.
I don't want. You know what? I mean, IndyCar has a popularity problem enough.
We've talked about that.
As far as Motorsport Series goes, they might, at best case scenario, they might be third in the United States. So, NASCAR is still probably number one. Formula One is just exploding in popularity. I don't think it quite has the popularity level of at least like Cup Series NASCAR in this country. IndyCar is a distant third. I mean, they're just getting wiped.
That might be generous.
They're just getting wiped in the ratings. People are waking up on the West Coast at 5 a.m. to watch a Formula One race. And nobody is waking up or going and watching IndyCar. It's embarrassing. Like it's Roger Penske buying the series away. I had high hopes, and maybe I'm wrong here. He's obviously a smart man. He knows what he's doing, but this looks like just a straight cash grab. Looking at it from the short term, you're alienating the hardcore fans of the series that have hung on despite the fact you have done just a terrible job as a series, and much of that is before Penske took over. You do a horrible job marketing your drivers. Your most popular driver in the series, or at least the most well known to the average racing fan, is only famous because he won Dancing with the Stars 15 years ago.
Helio Castroneves.
Yeah, and it's a shame. They have a lot of talented drivers in that series. They have a lot of great personalities in that series. And
one of your top 3 drivers of all time, the home country doesn't even know who he is.
Yeah, like they don't even know the guy exists, which is embarrassing because it's New Zealand is not a large country. If you have somebody leaving the country and going over and dominating records in the United States, this man should be a national hero. There should be like ceremonies in New Zealand and statues put up with him and streets and schools named after him. But you ask people from New Zealand, like, I think he races cars. I think I've heard of him. And that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing for IndyCar.
Well, and 2 of the most fun and exciting drivers to be around are both from Brazil, with Helio and Tony Kanaan.
I mean, and you look at it, you've got second generation drivers out there, like Graham Ray Hall. His father Bobby, like the older fans love Bobby. He was a former Indy 500 winner. They got a lot of young talent coming up. We've talked about David Malukas, we've talked about Christian Lundgaard.
Then you got Team Andretti, who their name is synonymous with Indianapolis.
But they can't seem to get out of their own way. You've got some of these former Formula One drivers coming over here into the IndyCar series, and it's just like you're squandering this. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, what happened? Honestly, like, what happens if IndyCar folds? Like, what happened? I mean, does somebody take on the 500 and it becomes this like once a year thing? Like, what happens?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions going into 2016. There was a lot of excitement building up because it was the 100th running of the 500.
It was their first sellout in a long time.
And I was there, and it was fun to see. It was on the downslope when we went there in 2008.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you look at 2008, the only thing that I remember about that race is that Danica Patrick had, the IndyCar security guy not leaped over the pit wall and convinced her otherwise. She was probably going to beat the crap out of Ryan Briscoe for taking her out of the race. And
there's three things I remember from that race. That's one of them. The second, we had two of our friends from high school that ended up sitting right in front of us. Then three, that was one of the most boring races I've ever been to.
I mean, I enjoyed it because we were in our early 20s. We had a giant cooler full of Bud Light cans, and we're like, we're going to do Indy the right way here. But yeah, the race itself was pretty,
I think it was maybe 15 green flag laps was the longest run they had because it was just caution after caution.
Who won that race?
Gilles de Fran, maybe?
No, he was out by then. All right. We're going to Google. Oh, Scott Dixon. Right.
Wow. I think I was at the race that Gilles de Fran won, actually.
Yeah, that was a few years ago.
That might have been 2003. I think I went there when I graduated.
Rookie of the year, Ryan Hunter-Reay. Harv Day got rained out that year.
Well, and even you got Will Power, who is an all-time great also that you never hear about.
Oh, Will Power he wasn't a rookie that year, I don't think. Yeah, he was. He was a rookie that year.
But I've been to, I think, 4 500s since that 100th running, 3 or 4. They've added up here recently. When you're there, the excitement is just the same as always, but the buildup isn't quite as big, and it's still pretty full, but it's not what it used to be.
Vitor Mira finished second that year. Marco Andretti finished third.
Oh yeah, we thought Marco was going to win, but
Elio finished fourth. He was about 6 seconds back. Ed Carpenter fifth that year. Ryan Hunter-Reay was the top rookie, finishing sixth.
Side note, it was fun to see Helio win his fourth in person.
Townsend Bell, he finished 10th that year.
That's a name.
Dan Weldon, late Dan Weldon, 12th. Will Power, 13th. Davey Hamilton, 14th. th 22nd, Danica Patrick. 23rd, Ryan Briscoe.
Yeah, IndyCar, you got some amazing, talented drivers. You got to market them. And so many of them are just great, down to earth people from everything that I can see. What are you doing?
I'm just, I just don't know. I mean, I bought the book, or no, I didn't buy it, but I got it as a Christmas gift from my parents. The book about the split from the '90s, and just I'm it's pretty thick too. I'm actually I'm finishing up another book right now, but I plan on picking that up soon. And this might not I'm not saying like that, obviously that's like that was the worst thing to happen to open wheel racing in the United States probably ever. Almost destroyed it. I mean, the IndyCar series was pretty bad. Um, I remember in 90, was it 96? Yeah, it was 96 was the first year. The lineup of drivers in the 96 Indy 500, you're like, who?
Well, it's funny, you know who the reason was for the IndyCar kart split?
Roger Penske, Chip Ganassi, Tony George. I mean, it's all falls back to Roger Penske.
Penske got mad that they withdrew Al Unser Jr.'s qualifying time where he was solidly in the field. They tried to move him up, had a bad run, didn't qualify.
That was the year
Got
was that 95 or 96 where none of the Penske drivers, it was 95, wasn't it?
95. Didn't they end up withdrawing everybody?
I don't know if they withdrew everybody, but I know none of the Penske drivers made the field that year.
Maybe that's what it was. They didn't
Yeah,
qualify.
I think they didn't qualify. I think they were all slow that year.
Junior was in and then he was out. That was back when Indy 500 qualifying was so much fun to watch.
Jacques Villeneuve won that year on a controversial finish with Scott Goodyear passing the pace car.
Yep.
Oh, um, oh god, that was the year Scott Brayton died.
I watched that crash in qualifying live.
Ugh.
I remember watching that and seeing the hit, and that was tough.
Yeah, Emerson Fittipaldi failed to qualify.
Mo. I remember growing up seeing the IndyCar drivers, see the commercials on TV of signing places around Indianapolis and surrounding areas. Tony Stewart came up to Kokomo and got his autograph at JD Byrider. I just don't see that as much going on
No, they're
of the
not
races
coming.
I've gone to.
They're not coming out anymore. I mean,
They're
it's
there the
embarrassing.
entire month of May and they seem like they stay
Like
sheltered
you,
inside the
I mean,
track.
they still have, yeah, that's exactly it. Like they'll have the sessions, but you got to go out there and pay to get yourself into the track, and then go stand in line at the track, and you can meet the drivers.
It used to be like what, $5 to get in or free to get in. They had the fan days when you could walk around the garage and see the cars and meet the drivers. I think that's actually when I met Rick Mears.
I didn't know that. You met Rick Mears?
I think I got his autograph because he was
That's
signing.
awesome. That's
I
awesome.
think.
Like,
I
this
actually
is
have
so
a
weird.
signed poster of with Ron Hemmelgarn. I think actually the year after Buddy Lazier won.
With his driving with his broken back.
I gotta look, but Buddy Lazier might actually be on that same poster.
Got his car back on my display case. That was a sharp looking car.
Trying to think, I might actually have Gilda Franz too.
He was a good driver, but I don't know. I mean,
But
I've always
that's all
been
gone.
I've always been super loyal to IndyCar. Like even in the down years, I always, it's my birthday weekend. Like I have that forever attachment to the Indy 500, and it just seems like it's just one move after another that they just, they're putting races on Peacock, but nobody can see them. It's super frustrating. Like, I know like people in NASCAR and fans of NASCAR are getting upset, but at least NASCAR still has a pretty decent sized fan base. Like IndyCar's fan base is dwindling. They're not doing anything to grow it. And all they're doing is just making the existing fans mad. And then
And
Iowa.
NASCAR has
Iowa.
gone.
Iowa they did the right thing at Iowa. They turned it into this whole festival 2-day weekend. Huge turnout, great response locally. And what do? They double the prices for next year. And people are like, nope, not paying $200 or whatever to get into that. Like, I think they're gonna have a sad realization when nobody shows up to that race. And they do such a crap job with promoting. It's like, well, we left Phoenix because nobody showed up to the race, because you didn't do any promotion. I lived here for the last one of those races. There was zero advertisement locally. Nobody talked about it. It was a 30-second footnote on the evening news that night. Like, you suck. I'm sorry, but you people suck.
I will say NASCAR's gone downhill a little bit. 98 was awesome with the 50th anniversary.
Kind of peaked
And
then. Early
it
2000s kind of
continued.
peaked.
But I'm not a big fan of their playoff system, but that's another story. But I think some of the entertainment is coming back. You got
I enjoy. I mean,
some good things going.
we were originally planning a 2-part finale for this year where we talk about our best Wednesday night dash moments, and then our best part 2 is when real racing moments for the year. And we'll do some kind of consolidated version of that, but we had to change it up for this. Like, this is.
But I like NASCAR, but I'm still an IndyCar guy. Like I remember working lifeguarding, and if I had to work the day of the race, I had the radio on in the guard room, and I'm asking people like, what lap are they on and who's leading? Then I'd catch the race that night. And
and the other thing too is when we lived in Indiana, we were always blacked out. We could never watch the race live.
yeah,
As a kid,
always listen on the radio.
if I didn't go to the race, I had it on the radio in the backyard. And then you watch the tape delay at like 8 o'clock that night.
I remember doing all that stuff. Then when I moved away, it was awesome. I set aside that time, and that was it. Watching the news at 5 a.m. live from the track.
Mm-hmm. It's just, I was just so frustrated.
The month of May was one of my favorite months because it used to be the entire month.
It was a month-long celebration. It was what Iowa did, last year for their 2 days. They turned that into a month-long celebration of IndyCar.
But they've changed up qualifying so much, it doesn't have the same mystique as it used to.
Well, I mean, you remember in middle school? It was like, what, 6th grade probably? We took the field trip to the track in May.
Yep.
It was like the first week of May. There were cars out testing.
Usually rookie orientation.
Yeah, it was rookie orientation.
Watching Kenny Breck.
Yes. He was a rookie that year. It was 97. It would have been. Yeah. So we're in middle school. They bus us 60 miles from our school to the track. We go around the museum in the morning. We take our bag sack lunches with us. We go up, and we're sitting right below the paddock.
Did we meet Chuck Lofton or Dave Calabro?
I was
not one of those.
I was not with you with that.
I met one of them. They were just like down the way, and it's like, hey, this is cool.
Yeah, and the one thing that for me that stands out from that visit is, they grouped us up in with chaperones. They had us into like groups of like 4 or 5 kids, and you're either paired with a teacher or you're paired with one of the parent volunteers. And I got paired with the art teacher, and I'm for the life of me, cannot remember the man's name. Do you remember the man? Do you remember him from Maple Crest, the art teacher?
Um, Allardyce. Art.
Allardyce. Yes. Okay, so I strongly dislike art class. I just cannot draw, and he was tough. He was a tough grader of your art projects, and you'd hand him like your drawing. You're like, well, that looks a little rough, and he give you a B. And like, what? Really? Like, it's art class. But anyway, that man knew so much about that track and the history. I learned so much from him. Like, so much of I credit so much of what I know about that track and the history of the 500. I credit to that man just hanging out with him for one day. And it's just something that is stuck with me. I couldn't remember the man's name. But that stuck with me for years, that visit. It's growing up in Indiana. It was such an important part of kids. Like, we jokingly say it was part of the science curriculum in May to talk about the Indy 500. And it was.
I got to play hooky to go drive around the track on, I think it was Carb Day.
Carb Day, yep.
I've run around the track for the Indy Mini.
And the question is, and I don't know who, I mean, my brother was a teacher. He left the profession, but I don't know if the kids, I don't think the Indy 500 is as big of a deal in Indiana as it once was. Like, this is the state that put an IndyCar on their state quarter. And I just
IndyCar has changed up so much of the month. They're trying to do stuff with the road course, but it's not the same.
It's not. It really isn't. Like, it's a money grab. You charge people 3-4 times as much. It's a random practice session on a Saturday or a Sunday. Instead, you could charge 3 or 4 times the admission to get them in for a race on the road course. And it was an entertaining race last year. I mean, with the rain, it added
pouring rain.
The pouring rain added a fun aspect to it. But, like, I'm sorry, but Raj, Captain, Sir, you need to get back to the fundamentals of what made that event awesome. And it has slipped so far away. And I know you're 85 years old. I hope you live for many, many more years. You've been an important part.
You're a legend in the motorsports community, and none of the sports are what they are now without Roger Penske.
Yes, for sure. But I have this horrible feeling that the people that will be left to run this after his exit from the sport, whether it's retirement or his ultimate passing, I just do not have a good feeling. I do not have a good feeling about where IndyCar is going to be 10, 15 years from now.
And Dave Calabro is doing a good job as track announcer, but still, he's no Tom Carnegie. It's a new track record. Just hearing that just gives you chills. I remember hearing that at a Brickyard qualifying one year. Then, unfortunately, not having Jim Neighbors singing Back Home Again in Indiana.
Well, I mean, obviously he was there for a long time. Jim Cornelison.
He's so good.
Oh, I mean, for those that have lived in Chicago, I lived in Chicago for 8 years. I went to numerous Chicago Blackhawks games. That man and that national anthem at the United Center, like, if you're not shaking, like, if you are not physically shaking when you were done, like, you are not a human being. Like, he is unbelievable. And he follows me on Twitter, by the
way. Yeah, they've gotten some great replacements for just absolute legends of Indianapolis. That if they can get back to some of those basics that they built themselves on through the 60s, 70s, 80s, into those early 90s.
So a question for you here is, we keep saying, like, oh, it used to be. I mean, it was obviously a different time. Like, we're not in the, this is pre-social media. This is pre-TikTok. This is I can only focus on a video for 30 seconds or a minute at most. Would those methods of how to run an event work in today's nonstop, short-term, short-form, everything action, or are people going to lose interest too quickly?
I think you can do it.
I think if it's done right, it can be done.
I think you take those things and make them the short 10, 20, 30-second clips. But if you make them right, it grabs your attention and says, you have to come see this. If
And
you
they
just
aren't doing
go,
that.
hey, look what it is.
I
Oh,
love
well, that's cool. Okay.
I love the Indy 500. I enjoy getting up and turning on my TV, or when we're in Pacific time at 9 a.m. to see the festivities and the start of the race, and watching it at 9 a.m. Out here. But honestly, like there's obviously not much traveling in recent years, but before that, there's nothing that says to me I need to go fly into Indianapolis to go to the race this weekend.
The thing, maybe we're just old now. Who knows? But
I got called old today by a 4-year-old. I'm and it wasn't my child either. That was the most insulting part of it.
the thing they have to do, if they do it wrong with social media, they're not going to do it. But you have to somehow get the mystique of Indianapolis.
I mean, Formula One proves you can do it. They do so well on their social media. They went and partnered with Netflix for the Drive to Survive. I mean, they found the winning formula, and you know what? Copy it. NASCAR tried to. They didn't do a great job. I mean, it was poor execution. But copy it. The prints are there. Steal it. Follow it, please.
So this would be an awesome 10-episode lead up to Indy 500.
And they're doing it. They're going to do it, but it's on the CW.
I think we'll see how this turns out, but this is what I would do. I would, over the 10 episodes, break down the history, have past champions, past drivers, talk about their experience. But then I'd also follow the Tony Kanans. How many has he run and only won one? Look at how many times Scott Dixon he's the all-time lap leader at Indianapolis now. And he's won one?
And that was 2008.
The year we were there.
He
then
blew it this year. I mean, he blew his chance this year for a second. But
then you look, one of the episodes, look at the Andretti curse. How many races has that family been in, and they have one title? It's those stories that just make the allure of Indianapolis so fascinating. And even going back, you throw back into a history of, you had your crew chief riding shotgun. You had two people in the car.
But ironically, the first one was won by the guy who didn't have the crew chief riding with it.
And you look into that stuff, and part of what makes Indianapolis is, unfortunately, I think it's actually the drivers that have passed in the race, because you have that element of danger. You have the element of surprise. Like most recently, Alexander Rossi, rookie, winning the 500. You have so many different elements. Every year, you could make a full documentary of what the drivers experience as they go through qualifying day and bump day and carb day and the practices leading up. You could make that every single year, and it would be just a fascinating draw.
And the thing too is, we still have some of these. You have AJ Foyt still with us. He's up there in age. He's still with us. You still have Mario Andretti with us. I mean, we're seeing some of these. So it's getting a little. Seeing some of these past winners are starting to pass away. It's kind of crazy. Like, you see some of these guys, they were still driving when we were kids, and now they're old men.
Yeah, Al Unser just passed away here
And Bobby
recently.
passed away before that. God. And then you look at, some of these names that you see out there, like, Tony Stewart made a name for himself. I mean, he never wanted Indy, but,
He
he
was
made an,
always running up front. He's
I
another
mean,
one, Indiana native, and never won that race. Just never got lucky.
you still have Rick, mentioned him earlier, Rick Mears. He's still around. Like, you need to talk to him.
That's the other thing with Indy. The best drivers almost never win that race. You have to be so lucky the entire day and month. That's the other thing that's so cool with that race.
But you look at some of these names, I'm just kind of looking through, you look at someone I mentioned before, Bill Vukovich, who might have been the greatest driver ever in American racing history, died
Amazing, Brad.
leading the race in 1955. He was up like 15, 16 seconds and just hit a slow car, and his car flipped over the wall. And
as sad and tragic as stuff like that is, it's those moments too that make Indy what it is. It's that danger piece to it. You conquer Indianapolis and you're on top of the racing world. Outside of maybe Daytona 500, it's one of the greatest races ever.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But,
and I'd maybe contest it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's depending on who you ask, they're either going to say Daytona or they're going to say Indianapolis
And
in this country.
You're not wrong if you say Daytona.
Agreed. I agree. I mean, they're both amazing events, and you could have arguments for both, but something doesn't change soon. Do we even have an Indy 500 in 15 years?
Yeah, I mean, that's our goal. We want to field a car in the Indy 500.
If there's no Indy 500 to field a car into, that kind of defeats the purpose there. You know what? I think we settled enough on this topic.
Yeah. IndyCar, if you want some ideas, like, come talk to us. We got you.
We've got the pulse.
You got the Indy natives. We've been to plenty of races.
We know that every square inch of that track. We know the history.
And, we are the age group you're targeting.
You know what? I will be a paid consultant. I'm very... Give me a call.
Yeah, you can fire me if my idea doesn't work. That's fine.
It's all right. Go down in flames trying.
I'll fight for Indianapolis and IndyCar.
Anyway, I think we're going to wrap. We were planning on recording 2 episodes back to back, but this news derailed it. Got me a little upset.
Yeah, you can tell. It's irked us a little bit.
This was not the most organized show we've ever done, and it was a little ranty at times, but needed to be said. I feel a little bit better. A little bit.
Hey, we're showing you who we are and what we're about.
And you know what? I'm still saying it. Motorsport Games will not release that game. They will go bankrupt before that game ever sees the light of day. I'm going to say it right now. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But frracingonline.com at frracingonline. We'll see you next time for the our end of the year throwback. Hopefully a little more positive tone next week.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.